Good afternoon, everyone. Hello. So nice to see everyone here. My name is Ariel Clark. I am presenting this panel today, and I'm a cannabis business and corporate attorney. I've been involved in the cannabis space for the last 10 years, and I'll talk about that, the political work that I do, and some other things. But I'm very happy that we are all sitting here together on this panel that originally, when I was asked to speak on this issue, it was really limited to the city of Los Angeles. I practice in LA. There are a number of challenging legal issues that we need to deal with in terms of the ability for people to participate in this very exciting cannabis industry as business operators, etc. So when I first was asked to do this, it really was limited to Los Angeles. But thankfully, over even the course of the last several months, issues of diversity, so today we are talking about, and sorry if I didn't introduce that, but I'm sure we've all read the program, we are talking about racial and gender diversity in the cannabis space. Originally LA, but then of course this is an issue that crosses, well, LA, California, across this nation, as we are now, in California, 20 years into the passage of the first medical marijuana law in the United States, as now we have 25 plus states with medical marijuana, with recreational marijuana. We have conferences such as this one where thousands of folks are attending these every weekend across this country. So these issues, looking at them, figuring out where there are issues, problems, benefits, what we can do to really enhance diversity within this space in a number of ways is very, it's a really important thing. We care about this. That's why we're here today. So thank you everyone for being here. We're going to do a bit of a free-form panel, but I also wanted to introduce my fellow panelist members. Well, Bonita is a woman that actually I met about a year ago. She's incredible. She runs an organization called Women Above Ground, and I'm sure she's going to talk about that a lot more, as well as has this incredible topical cream that has helped many of our dear friends. And she has a background in entertainment in LA and cannabis, fighting for cannabis for the last 20 years. And Marvin Washington, he is a retired, Super Bowl winner. You're never retired from that. You're just always a winner. A financial planner, a cannabis advocate, and I love this, educating and advancing cannabis as a medicine to protect professional, recreational, and child athletes without any psychotropic effects and impacts on performance. So I thank you guys so much for being here today. I guess maybe before we kind of get into some specific questions that I'd like our panel to cover, I'm going to give you a little background on how I come to this and my involvement with this space. And I'm sorry to hog the mic at first, but I'm going to do that. So look, here I am. I am a woman. I am also half Ottawa from the Grand Traverse Band. I come from the middle of nowhere in Michigan. I grew up broke and homeless at times. I went to law school at Berkeley. The trajectory of where my life was to where it is now is incredible. I have an all-female, my law partner is a woman. We have a diverse staff, and we have a very diverse client base. It has been an amazing thing to see as a cannabis lawyer for the last 10 years, how much even the client base and the professionals in this space have changed. Walking through these sorts of conferences, sitting alongside you guys, looking in the audience here, I can't tell you how important and amazing it is for me and for so many of us. So, speaking as a woman, as a Native person, as a lawyer, as a female business owner, now I also I'm the chair of the Los Angeles Cannabis Task Force, and we seek to bring state law in line with the city of Los Angeles, and we'll talk about that in more detail. There are various ways that we can create diversity where we can bring women and people of color into this industry. But why this panel and why these issues are so important is because we're writing the laws now, right? We're writing the laws in the state of California, across these United States, on a local level, and so all of our participation, my participation, but your participation individually in your respective professional areas, in whatever it is that you're doing now or you're coming into the industry to do, this is a time where you can really help shape it. So from the background that I come, this is an amazing kind of coalescing of moments. But it, again, requires very much constant work and being kind of ever diligent. So that's how I come to this. And I would like to, maybe Marvin, you want to speak next a little bit about your background?
My background, like as you said, I played in the trenches in the NFL for over a decade. Went into financial services for the better part of 10 to 12 years, and just happened upon this at a networking event. Got with a company that was a pharmaceutical company, but they had a patent from the NIH that studied CBD as an antioxidant and neuroprotectant for the brain. That was 3.5, 4 years ago. Since then, I've educated myself. I spoke at Expos and conferences. And to get me at this point is being at those Expos and conferences, seeing the lack of minority representation, seeing the lack of women representation. I want to kind of be part of that conversation and move it forward, because speaking at the football conferences and talking about CTE and all that, that's really important. But that was kind of, to me, preaching to the choir, and I wanted to get knowledge. Knowledge is power, and I want to educate people, particularly in our community, about this cannabis business, the whole plant, because this industry is going to take off. It's one of the fastest growing, or the fastest growing industry in the country, and in 5 years or 10 years, I don't want it to look like Silicon Valley, in the tech industry when it took off, where it's dominated and still dominated by predominantly Caucasian men. We participated, minorities, when it was illegal in the arrest and incarceration part. So I think we should participate in the profit and the business side of this in all aspects.
Yes. I agree.
Well, and just to kind of speak to that a little bit, or ask you, why do you think it is that this has been an industry, at least for the last number of years, that has been dominated by men or white males, or, you know, and how do you see that changing, and how can we help create that change?
Well, me and Bonita, we've had conversations about this, and I don't know why it is that. I think, you know, when you have a lot of decisions made at the state level, you know, it's made by men in politics, and they're the ones that write the rules. And the thing that I want to do is to make sure that everybody in my community is educated and know about our opportunities. And part of it's on, you know, the community, because we're driven by ideology, and I say that with the biggest, the people that have most influence in our community or in the brown community or whatever it is, it's usually the clergy or the pastors. And so there is a stigma or negative connotation that's been associated with this plant. But they need to get educated and leave all that behind and just follow the science. And if they follow the science, I think there comes to a logical conclusion that it does have benefits that can help out, proven benefits that have helped out kids with epileptic strokes and seizures, cancer patients, what have you. I think this is something that everybody should participate in, especially our community, because like I said, when they were doing, you know, 3 strikes and you're out, and the mass incarceration, and guys are getting, you know, these punitive sentences for plant, we participated in that in large numbers. Now, you know, even if you look downstairs on the floor, African Americans make up 40% of Los Angeles. Are we 40% downstairs? So this is one of the things that I want to, you know, for us to get involved with, and we have to get the word out. And this is a start.
Yeah. Yeah, so stigma, education, law, politics, all these sorts of things, networking, creating organizations where we're assisting folks within our communities. And Bonita, you have, I'd love for you to talk about your organization and the product and the work that you've done. I mean, you're an incredible, powerful woman, and I just love you. So.
Thank you, I love you too.
Hey, I want to say her cream works. It's the real deal. It's fabulous.
Yes, my organization is Women Above Ground. It's spelled ABUV, and it is a networking organization that supports women and people of color to transition into the cannabis business. We create resources. It's about empowerment. It's about education. Ultimately, when I first got in the industry a few years ago, I just found that there wasn't that kind of support out there for women and people of color. I found one organization for women, but I just didn't feel that it was giving enough to the people of color, and we needed that kind of support. Education is very important because most of us don't know how to get in the business. I know for me, when I started in the business, I didn't know where to start, and I didn't really know who to go to, because it is a new industry, and it was something that I had never really been into that heavily. Back in '96, I dealt a little bit as far as the legalization of the medical side, but other than that, I just felt that I wanted to be part of the green rush, but I didn't know where and how. Because I come from the entertainment business, 25 years strong, worked with Dr. Dre and Snoop for years, and so what I started doing is I started bringing celebrities, athletes into the industry. Then I created a topical cream called That Glass Jar. It's a cannabis-based cream with 14 different organic extracts, and it kills the MRSA bacteria. My girlfriend was literally dying of MRSA, and I don't come from topicals, but I created oils for like cancer patients, but I never worked with MRSA. And so my girlfriend says, Bo, she says they're giving me 3 weeks to live if I get off treatment because the antibiotics just don't work because it's a drug-resistant staph infection. So I did some research and I found that cannabis could work because it's a natural antibacterial and a natural antibiotic. And it's the actual terpenes that are effective in the cannabis. So I put together the other extracts. There's 4 other extracts that were very, very key to MRSA specifically. So we didn't know if it would work, but within 4 days, it killed the bacteria. And it also killed another bacterial virus that she had too. And then it went on to work like with Marvin's sister. She gets, what does she get, the lesions?
Yeah, she gets lesions on the face.
Yes, and it works amazingly with psoriasis. It treats psoriasis within 12 hours, so it's just awesome. So, I mean, I am a true believer in this plant. I love this plant because I know what it can do, and it's amazing. And like Marvin said, it's about inclusion in the industry. You know, we need to allow everybody in this industry. You know, it's equal opportunity, really. It's an equal opportunity industry, and people need to just be educated in how to get in. And I just encourage everyone to take this opportunity to be part of the green rush and create generational wealth, because this is what this industry is going to do. It's going to create generational wealth for a lot of us. So I invite you and welcome you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this morning I was thinking, you know, why has there been a lack of diversity? Because I see a very diverse future, and goddamn it, I'm going to push for that myself, and I know these other folks will. But you know, why is that? Well, okay, because of, you know, the effects of the war on drugs, how that has affected certain communities. Perhaps also the cost of entry when you're looking at certain states or local programs to apply for some sort of cannabis business permit. That could be one.
Yes.
Lack of any kind of local ordinance or state licensing program that you know, either favors or gives certain points to women-owned, minority-owned businesses. You know, I thought about how certain contracts, like federal contracts, it will favor, like you get extra points if you're a veteran, if you're a woman, etc. You know, where are we seeing that? Interestingly, I wasn't able to find, and I'm curious if there's anyone who's from Denver or Colorado or some other states in the United States. I wasn't able to find any state laws or local laws that kind of gave, you know, made it a little bit easier for folks to apply or even to give extra points. I know that some lovely folks in Oakland are working on an ordinance there that will have some benefit to communities of color, but especially certain people in certain census tracts. And you know, there's some debate on how effective that will be. But I was thrilled to hear that that was happening in Oakland, and you know, kind of thinking in the city of Los Angeles, kind of circling back to that, because of course we are the biggest consuming market in the entire world. I mean, you know, it's amazing, and it's not just consumers though. You know, they're business operators, people who want to participate in this industry here. And as a lawyer, you know, I started this Los Angeles Cannabis Task Force with other folks 6 months ago because, when you have laws, local rules that grandfather in, for example, if I'm going to put it simplistically of what's going on in the city of LA, a certain small group of people that can, that have probably had a little bit of a leg up already to be in the industry, maybe, and we can kind of go back and forth on that, but we need to create the ability for other applicants and other people to be entrepreneurs and hold licenses. And so, for my, and I'm going to kind of ask you guys some similar questions, which are, what are you doing kind of in your own lives, professionally, personally, to kind of help alleviate those barriers? I'm trying to change the laws and get political, and I got to tell you, politics is gnarly. It's a very eye-opening experience. There's a lot people have to lose, right?
That's right.
And a lot other folks have to gain. I'm into a lot more people gaining and opening that window up, but there's certainly not everyone shares, my sentiment and our sentiment. So, what sort of things are you doing to kind of alleviate barriers to entry? And
Well, the thing is to alleviate the barriers is political and getting people involved, because some of the laws that are written, they're not written against us, but they hurt us. Like, I know about the state of Washington, they're going a point system. I think it's an 8-point system. But you get 4 points. If you go over 8 points, you don't get a license. But it's 4 points if you have a misdemeanor. And, a lot of times we know through DPA and through all the stats out there that Caucasian teenagers and minority teenagers use illicit drugs or cannabis at the same rate, but we're arrested at 3 times the rate, and 3 to 10 times depending on where we live. So say if you're saying you're Washington, you get caught with a joint or a blunt, that's 4 points against you. So you can't, that's a barrier that you can't get in this industry. So those things need to be changed. And the thing that I'm doing is I'm trying to bring the smart money to this industry. There's a minority group with a friend of mine who's going to be on the panel, but he's not. But we're trying to get it to bring a lot of smart money, minority money, and let them know about this industry. Obama just opened it up, or the DOJ just opened up. There's going to be 6 more research labs instead of just the University of Mississippi. We're trying to get one of those labs to be a HBCU. So that's what I'm doing on that end. And as far as the politics of it, I live in New York State, and they have a very limited medical marijuana law in the books, and we're trying to change that. We're trying to change that, and then just getting the word out.
Right, and especially with women, we've changed the face of cannabis, especially the mothers, the professional women right now that are the face of cannabis. And I just had this discussion with a friend of mine. She's actually Barry Gordy's niece. She used to be vice president of Motown. And she was saying, Bo, I just don't know how to transition into cannabis without affecting everything else I do. I sit on the board of these nonprofits, and just because of her status in the industry, she doesn't know how to come in. And I said, you just have to just come in. You just have to understand that it's not about smoking weed, it's not about selling weed, it's not about growing weed. This is a whole movement that is bigger than we are. And this is a healing plant. And if people understand what this plant really does, and they get away from the stigma of let's get high, then I think that we can move forward. And a lot more people would be open to coming in. And that's why education is so important. And that's why I really, really push education, because we need to educate people on what this plant can do, okay? And what, moving forward, where we need to go with hemp, because we could be self-sustainable, completely if we would just go back to growing hemp and utilizing it the way we should. So really it's just about educating people. And I just think the people of color need to understand that the door is open for them. But I notice with a lot of, Latino men and black men, because they have arrest records or felony records because of the marijuana plant, they feel that they can't get in the industry. And that's so not true. The ancillary side of cannabis is huge. So there's other areas of cannabis that you can get into besides growing or selling weed.
Yeah.
It's just, and that, but I'm shocked that that's what people think. When they think of cannabis, they think of growing or selling. And there's so much more to it.
yeah, this business, you can go wide and deep. And when I got in here 3 or 4 years ago, I really didn't know of any minority or women that were in the business. And since then, there are a few, and they've educated me on one sitting in the audience now, one today, and she has simply
Yes.
here, and she's been instrumental in getting me up to speed on not only laws, but our lack of participation. And like I said, I'm trying to educate people. I'm happy that, you know, we're moving along, but I think we need to be more aggressive in our outreach. And like I said, put the ideology beside and move that away and follow science. And you talk about people that I have a lot of buddies that are with me, win or tie, but they won't step out.
Right.
And I've sent them product to help not only them, but their relatives, their kids, but they won't come out because they're tied to their job and what have you. But you need to step out on this and let people know about this plant, that's a healing plant. Cannabis is medicine to me because I use CBD every day, and it helps me. It's oil that's in that, and I know the cannabis is not the issue in society. It's the pharmaceuticals and the opiates and the alcohol. Those things are much more dangerous than this.
Yeah, so I also wanted to give people in the audience an opportunity to ask a question. So there's a microphone right there, or you can just raise your hand and call it out. I just wanted to speak to something because we're kind of talking. We're at a cannabis forum here in LA, and you know, of course there are ancillary businesses that folks can get involved in where your prior criminal history is not necessarily at issue. But I just wanted to speak to under the Medical Cannabis Regulation and Safety Act, which is a new state law in California. There are, you know, a prior criminal history may pose a problem, even if it's related to cannabis. I mean, that's kind of a bummer. There's going to be a committee that will oversee and decide whether or not the applicant can actually receive the license. So I have some concerns about that. You know, again, so much more work to do, so much more need to be ever vigilant. Under the AUMA, which is the proposition, the recreational Proposition 64 that we're going to maybe be voting for, or we will be voting for, maybe it will pass here in November. You know, if you want to apply for recreational license, you cannot be excluded for, or you can't, there's language about, for that, on that sole basis alone for your prior criminal history, you can't be excluded. So we'll see about how all of that shakes out. It also allows you to expunge certain of your, if you have marijuana-related offenses. So that could be promising. You know, I'll say that in the city of LA, depending on how, you know, on how our local permitting process shakes up, you know, I will certainly be advocating for the ability for folks, no matter what your criminal record is, especially if it involves cannabis, you should have no issue applying. But you know, regardless, unfortunately, there is a group and an initiative that is being put forward where if you have any sort of felony background, you cannot manage a dispensary in the city of LA, nor does it increase the applicant pool. So, you know, from a legal perspective, you know, we'll see how all of that plays out. But again, these laws are being formed from a legal perspective. We have to be sort of ever vigilant. So anyway, I saw that there are some questions, so please stand up and ask.
Wanda.
I have more of a comment than a question, but my name is Wanda James. I'm the first African American licensed in the United States to sell I've been doing this since 2009. We have a Simply Pure dispensary. I've owned an edible company and a medical marijuana company. And I've got to be really honest. I've been fighting out here for a very, very, very long time, trying to get mostly black and brown people involved. And at this point, it's a big deal. And for anybody that doesn't want to come out and anybody that doesn't want to stand up, I'm kind of over it. So I'm like, leave behind and move on to those folks that do. So when I hear people tell me, you know, well, I'm all for the medical marijuana, but I don't know how I feel about the recreational marijuana, I kind of look at them cross-eyed. Because there is only one cannabis, and it's all the same thing. Medical cannabis, recreational cannabis is the exact same thing. And until we get that through our minds, and until we stop deciding that, oh, well, it's okay for babies, but it's not okay for 50-year-old women to use, because I had a hard day, is upsetting to me, and it's annoying to me, and I'm over it. So anybody that doesn't want to come along on this ride with us, forget them. Leave them behind, move on. Move on and move on strong. And we have got to start to give permission to people to stand up and say, yes, I smoke cannabis, and I smoke it daily. Now let me tell you something else. I also run 3 businesses. I've got a consulting firm, I'm a former military officer, I am a former corporate executive. I do more before 6 a.m. than most of y'all will do all day long. My husband is also a cannabis chef, and we believe in this stuff. So for those that are shamed and don't want to have anybody know that you do it, and for people who tell me, well, my license is on the line, or I work for a nonprofit, all of that is not true. Your license will not get suspended if you are a part of the cannabis community. If you are concerned about being a part of the cannabis community, then don't do it. Don't come on board, because we don't need the stigma any longer.
Thank you.
So for people that want to come out that just want to make $1 million or $1 billion by next Thursday, but don't want to tell anybody that they're involved with it,
Right?
you know what? Go away, because you're not helping. So I don't want to take over much things, but honestly, we need to stand up. And for black and brown people, y'all are being left behind. This train is on the tracks. This train is moving. It's moving fast. Your opportunities are becoming less and less and less and less and less. So unless you want to get involved and get involved now, if you're not at the table, then you're what's for dinner. So stand up and let's
I'd like to make a comment, maybe a question as well. My name is Larry Venegas, and I'm from the Verona Reservation. I'm Native American, which means I was here first. I really don't get it because, you know, our people have been doing this for thousands of years. It's a plant, for Pete's sakes. And there are other plants out there that we use, you know. So we've been using hemp for thousands of years in many ways, but not only that, we've been using other natural plants like peyote and other things that we've been using, and it enhances our life. And so it's something that we've been doing for a long time, and it's okay, but it's how you use it and what you use it for. I think we use it in a very spiritual way because it does help us make us more present, I think, and also the CBD side of it. I started a healing center on my reservation because let's go back and do it the way we used to. So for 14,000 years, our people practiced and it worked. Cannabis worked and other plants worked for us, and so it is something that is really good for you, and it's really wonderful to see people here finally saying, okay, it's a plant and we can use it, and too bad we have to fight for it, you know, because it has done some really great things, and on my reservation, we have healed people with it, with pain. The other thing that I found really prevalent is the opiate addiction. You know, many people who come to the center have this opiate addiction because of the pain. You know, they want to use CBD, but they have to get off of that first in order to go a natural, holistic way. You know, so I mean, it is in crisis because it's so easy to get a prescription for pain medication for whatever, and it keeps coming, and they encourage it. You know, they encourage it because a big part of my fight is getting them off of the opiates and going a natural way. And it's been wonderful because the other thing about this whole thing is helping each other. And that's what I like about this, because the people who get involved are really great people, and they want to help other people, and people who've had sickness like Lyme disease and what have you, who've been given up, who spent thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars to help them heal, and it doesn't work. Whereas they've come here and it does work. It absolutely does work. And they're usually out of money and they're depressed and many things like that, but it's really encouraging because we are the power. We are the ones that are healing. We are the ones that can help each other with this. And this is one thing that we can use to help each other with. And so education is key to all of this. All of you have to become educators about this and advocate for this very good cause that we're in. Thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Lisa Gauchon, and I am a cannabis fashion owner. But as Ms. James said, I'm more than that. I'm a global brand strategist and more than 30 years working in the corporate industry, but still business. And this is a business. And when you guys talk about diversity, I think about businesses and all these wonderful brands here today and the resources. So sometimes we forget about the dollars associated with these brands. And so how do small and minority-owned businesses get these dollars that are associated with this, what we're calling the green rush? It's more than that, you know, and there's opportunities. So how do you all take issue with tapping into those dollars, whether it's investors, because there's all investors, we know that there's money floating, there's money out here.
Yeah, and thank you so
Gotta know
much.
how to get it.
Yeah, and that's a big issue, right? When we talked earlier about sort of what are the barriers to entry, or you know, and one being, well, you know, capitalization, you know, maybe applying for licenses, etc. And with the difficulty with banks, are really not loaning to entrepreneurs in the cannabis space. So actually, I'm going to ask the two of you that, and then maybe I'll come back to some ideas that I have. How can we help people get good money in this space? How do we help entrepreneurs, particularly targeted people of color and women?
I come out from private equity industry, and I know how they're like locals. They come in and eat crops and they go on to the next thing. But the thing that there is a lot of money in this industry, but it takes a lot of money to get into the industry. Like, you know, they have these $1 million cash funds and $600,000, you know, to apply for a license and things like that. But like they said, there's all types of other business that you can be in besides selling and growing. And I think it comes at a grassroots level with friends and family and networking with people that you know and seeing what their interest is. Because one that says if they're on the sideline, let them stay there. But if they want to invest and be a silent partner and help you get your business off, I say you go that route. But I think you need to make more avenues available for women and minorities. And that's what I'm trying to do, because like I said, we're trying to put together this investor group and make it available to minorities to get into this business.
I agree. And the thing about it is, if you reach out, I mean, you'll find that there's a lot of people out there that want to invest in cannabis. I mean, you'd be shocked. I get approached all the time by people that I would never expect that would want to get into it. So there's money out there. You just have to let it be known that you are looking for, you know, investors, because it's out there. And people are looking for ways to get into the business without having to be in the business. You know, they just want to invest. So you can, you know, you can find investors out there.
Yeah, and you know what I found is interesting. So in California, and this is still the law, there are no state licenses yet to apply for. So Marvin's talking about situations where you have to put up millions of dollars of bonds, like in New York or these other states where they're offering a very limited number of licenses. In California, the way cannabis business is, if you want to cultivate, manufacture, distribute, etc., any part of the marijuana industry, there's not been a state license to be had. Instead, you set up a very particular nonprofit corporation, you associate with other qualified patients, right? So it's about the corporate business compliance setup you have, which means also the barrier to entry, you know, is maybe $5,000 to pay a lawyer to set up some entities to work with you in some things. Right? But, of course, this also means that you've got an immunity or a limited immunity or defense to prosecution. So it's not like, you know, you're not kind of sitting there and able to build a business per se with a very strong kind of legal foundation. That's where we're going. So what I found is, I think that, you know, the reason why we have, and well, for a number of reasons, and there tends to be a fair amount of diversity in terms of my client base, and what I see in LA is, you know, because that barrier to entry, you know, there isn't a 5 limit number of licenses for growing. It's set up in a certain way, and you can participate in this industry. But again, the problem with that, of course, is that you don't hold the license. You can get arrested and raided, and that's not fun. So, yes, please.
Hi, my name is Whitney Beatty. I came to this conference last year to get more information. Now I'm standing here as the CEO of my company, Apothecary Brands. I'm in the ancillary business. I do cannabis humidors. And my question also kind of follows that money train. As I know working, and obviously I've cast a wide net. I'm also, I got my first $50,000 from, all minority investors who were in my community, little old ladies from church, and, right, left, and center, everyone I could bring in. But at the same time, I've had an issue in this area. My background is in the entertainment industry. My last job was Senior Vice President of Development at Warner Brothers. So I have a business background, but I've learned that as I'm talking to investors, when I'm standing there and I've got, my employee who happens to be a white male, they're much more interested in talking to him than they are to me. They're much more interested when he says it than I say it. So I'm wondering if there's some suggestions that you might have to be able to bridge that gap and be able to look, more attractive to those investors, to those people who want to do those capital raises, but might not feel as comfortable because of who I am.
Yeah,
that's
industry wide.
It's the truth. I hate to have to stand up here and say the truth, but it's my truth.
That's not even a cannabis issue.
I'm like,
No, exactly.
hey, I'm not getting the entertainment industry. It's an issue there as it is here.
Yeah.
But it still becomes one of those things where I'm like, I'm standing there, I'm screaming, we've got this, we've got that, but I'm still having those roadblocks.
Yeah, I mean, I would say as a woman who's run a law firm, as a Native person, as someone who's worked in cannabis, and I have conducted meetings over the course of my career with a number of men, and certainly people who get on the phone, or actually when I was exhibiting at a conference like this with my law partner, I can't tell you the number of people who came and said, where's Clark Newbert? Where are the lawyers? Thinking that we're like the staff people, or they're like, I don't even know, So people will just be idiots sometimes and go away, and I will just continue to be stronger, and that's just what that is. I mean, I wish it could be different. I know that it will be as more of us kind of come together, insist on, and fill out our place at this beautiful, massive table, but I don't know. I mean, I get it. It's a fight every day, and I wake up fighting, and I've been fighting since I was born, and that's just what it is. That's my
So Whitney, do you feel that way because you're a female or you're black?
It may be both. It very much, and that's not going to keep me from knocking on the door. I showed up last year. I showed up this year. I'll be here next year. They're gonna have, it's going to take a lot more than that to push me out the room. But at the same time, I want to be able to compete with those other companies that have a face that is different from mine. So if there's anything that I can do to help bring my company to the forefront, I was just looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, of course, probably everything you're already doing, which is like a killer, marketing strategy, business plan. You've got all of your kind of, whatever your budgeting is that you need. You have all your talking points in order. You've practiced a million times. You are super prepared, and, you just kind of keep at it.
I hate to say this, but honestly, in this space right now, and we talk to a lot of very wealthy minority folks to be able to invest, and so many of them are so afraid of it. So you know what? Money is green. So if folks that don't look like you want to give you money, take it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's green. So take it. Just make sure it's your company and that you've got a good financial package and that you're in control of it. But I mean, trying to get us to get involved is, I mean, it's like pulling teeth. But keep doing what you do.
Well, thank you. So we have time for about, what?
No.
I think we have time for one or two more questions or comments, so.
I just had a quick question. My name's Narendra. It seems like in California, they're pushing more from a bottom-up growth with cannabis. Do you feel that way? Do you feel that, like, with these licenses, with the MRSA Act, if you own a dispensary, you can't own a laboratory. If you own a laboratory, and it seems like they're trying to give a lot of people, more opportunities at the bottom, and an easier point of entry. Do you feel that will continue, or do you think that they will get rid of those barriers, and then someone who has like a gazillion dollars can just come in and monopolize the whole thing?
Yeah, so what he's speaking about is in California, under the Medical Cannabis Regulation and Safety Act, there are a number of licenses. At this point, 17 thus far, 10 being cultivation, distribution, transportation, etc. There are some restrictions on vertical integration because we are very sensitive as we put together the MCRSA that we've had medical marijuana businesses for 20 years, that we have 49% of the entire national market, and that really there needs to be an opportunity for people who already are in this space, but also entrepreneurs to get into this huge industry. So long as we keep pushing that, that's how well we will be able to kind of shore that up, meaning, you know, protect the cottage businesses. In AUMA, after 5 years, there is the allowance on Type 5 licenses, which will allow for these unlimited, you know, beyond the 22,000 square foot canopy licensing. Folks are very concerned about that, but then there are other, and there are no restrictions on vertical integration under AUMA unless you hold that kind of license. So, you know, these are all questions that we are all concerned with. And again, it really, I mean, as a lawyer, I find myself doing a lot of cheerleading and political strategy and insistence that people, you got to get involved, especially with your local political folks, because there are 482 cities and 58 counties in California. We're a two-tiered licensing state. You've got to have a local permit to get a state license, and probably if you have a state medical license, you'll be better positioned to get a recreational license. And it all comes down to your relationships with your local government. So creating those now, and then also being involved in kind of state politics so that we can ensure that there is, you know, the ability for smaller, medium, or even large-scale businesses to participate, but that you don't have kind of billion-dollar companies coming in and kind of grabbing all of that up. But it's the fate of this industry is in our hands, really.
Do you know if everything goes well in November with the recreational, the adult use? Do you know when that will actually go in effect? Like when that will?
The first sale of marijuana, recreational marijuana, is supposed to happen January 2018. So anyway,
okay.
So I'm being told that we're being cut off. I mean, not cut off, but speaking. We're wrapping it up. So I just really want to thank you both so much. I really appreciated being on this panel. Thank you, everyone.